Hey there, welcome to Curveball, everyone. My guest today, Toby Myles. This lady had a plan. She's going to leave her marketing job of 15 years, grow her dream business, which was designing jewelry, live the dream with her newly retired husband, finally do the thing that she had been dreaming about for so long. Then life said, nice try. Her husband was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is an incurable blood cancer, I just found out. And everything obviously screeched to a halt. It should have been a reason to play it safe, right? Stay in her job, have the benefits, stay put. But Toby did the opposite. She handed in her notice on New Year's Eve of 2019 and took the leap. Just the significance of that alone. She was a marketing person and a copywriter, so she picked up some copywriting gigs to support the jewelry biz. And wouldn't you know it, that side hustle has turned into a full-blown career and her blossoming business, one that paid her, traveled lighter, and gave her the freedom to be there for her husband's treatments while building a business she actually loved. And just so you know, I asked her before we started, how is her husband doing? He's good today. So today, Toby is 6 years into calling her own shots. I love this. She's obsessed with storytelling and motorcycles. Allergic to perfectionism. Yes, queen. And she's not here for your drama or your hustle culture. She's here to live fully, work joyfully, and help others do the same. Because if cancer taught her anything, it's that time is a non-renewable in-source. Toby, welcome to Curveball.
Thank you, Heather. Wow, that was quite the intro. I feel like we're done. Like you just said everything.
Yes. So tell me about what happened when life collided. Like you guys were really it sounds like your husband's retired. You look young and vibrant. Like you're just like, we're going to have the best life, I'm sure. So tell me about what happened.
Yeah. We had spent 4 years in Chicago while my husband's daughter was going to high school. And the plan was always to come back east where I grew up. He was going to restore antique motorcycles for his retirement job. And we were here maybe 2 months when he got diagnosed with multiple myeloma. So a few months into his official retirement, right?
That is awful. Yeah. My father-in-law found out he had Parkinson's like literally the week after he retired. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if there's one person who needed to should have been able to really enjoy retirement. So you said it was a wake-up call that about time, just not being promised, right? Walk us through how that experience changed your relationship with risk and security. Because at the same time, you left your job, which I can see not many people doing. They're just going to be like, I'll defer that dream until whenever. So tell me about what was happening.
Yeah. I was at my company for 15 years and year after year, they said, eventually we're going to promote you to client strategy manager. It's going to be amazing. And then it would slip through the cracks. Upper management would change and it just wasn't going to happen. I started to see the writing on the wall. And so I went to my boss and I said, I don't think this is ever going to happen. I said, I'm going to leave at the end of the year. She said, no, don't do anything yet. Let me see, what I can do. So they came back, they promoted me. This was in March of 2019. And it turned out to be the worst situation ever. I was reporting to a micromanager. I was just miserable. And I had been growing a side hustle jewelry business for 5 years at that point. And it was always my dream. One day I'm going to leave corporate. I'm going to go focus full time on my jewelry business. And when I got that promotion, I was like, now's the time, right? And then my husband got diagnosed with multiple myeloma in August of 2019. And, when people say on a dime, your life changes, it did, right? He was perfectly healthy. And then he wasn't. And we had this diagnosis.
Did he just go to the doctor for something and they're like, oh my gosh, we found this? So they found it really early? Okay.
Ish.
Okay.
He was having back pain that just wouldn't go away. But we had just moved from Chicago, right? And we moved ourselves. So we were back and forth probably a dozen times with his trailer. And it was a lot of lifting and carrying and moving.
Course.
And so initially it was just like, okay, of course your back hurts. That's, to be expected, but it just was persistent and it just wouldn't go away. And so he went to the doctor and had an MRI. He demanded an MRI And when the MRI came back, there was something sort of suspicious. And he went back to see his doctor, who, by the way, he no longer has that doctor, because that doctor said, I don't know if I should send you to physical therapy or to a cancer doctor. And we're like, how do you even say that? If you suspect cancer at all, like, why would you even say something like that?
Right. Yes.
So fast forward a few months and all the testing and second opinions and things like that, he got an actual diagnosis of multiple myeloma. And
oh my goodness.
And essentially what happens is the healthy marrow gets crowded out by the cancer cells.
Oh my gosh. And you also told me that it's incurable. So he can maintain,
right?
But he'll never oh my gosh. I just think it's so, your life you must be so good. Like, where all the best parking spots are at the hospital. It's like a sad, when you get really good at making appointments and seeing specialists and things like that, it's just like a life. You're just like, wow, I never thought I'd be so good at wooing the patient coordinator to get an appointment.
Right.
Earlier.
Or just understanding all this medical terminology that I never hoped to be part of this club. No one ever wants to be part of this club.
No, I would get the MRI readings and I'm just like, I would have to put it into ChatGPT and I'm like, seriously, this is what they said. And can you explain it to me like I'm a fourth grader? And it was like, oh, your brain was healthy and now it's not. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So talk to me about the risk and security though. So a lot of people would play it safe, but you were like, no, I'm still going to do this. So was it because you're just like, holy crap, life can turn on a dime and I may never get this chance again? Is that what it was like?
That's what it was like eventually. That was not my first thought. My first thought was, oh, okay, I should stay at this job where I have benefits and I don't know what the future is going to be like for us together or for him. I had no idea. And we sat down on the couch one day over coffee one morning and I said, I don't know. I think maybe I shouldn't leave at the end of the year. And he's, no, this is the time you should do it because you've been talking about this for how many years? And we know now, life can change just like that. And you could say, I'll do it next year or the year after, but who knows if you get that chance? He's like, I have us covered. I have my retirement. You can go ahead and build this thing.
That is, I might cry. That is the coolest, sweetest. I love your husband, in the purest and best of ways, so so when you started your business, you were making jewelry and then you were like, I love copywriting. And I did it when I was in my marketing job and it sort of bloomed out of necessity, but then it became something bigger. So what surprised you? Were you surprised by that? Or that ended up being your path? Sometimes I just love where you end up and you're just like, wow, I started here. And then I ended up over here. I thought I was going to Florida. I ended up in Alaska. And so tell me what does that feel like? Or how did that start? And then how did you know this was going to be the thing and not the jewelry?
Yeah. So there were a few things. It wasn't just one thing. When he was diagnosed and when we had the conversation, yeah, you should still go and leave your job and do your jewelry business. I thought, I'm a good copywriter. It's what I've done. And I'll just pick up a few freelance clients. And that way there won't be so much stress on me starting out my jewelry business and I'll kind of do both for a while. And so that was right after he got diagnosed. And then by January, when I left, I had already picked up 2 more clients that were referrals from this original person.
Yeah.
And you know how sometimes you just feel like the universe is trying to send you a message and you keep ignoring it. I can write copy. I'm a good copywriter, but I should just ignore that just because I got 2 more clients. That doesn't mean anything, right?
Right. Yes. And that I also really enjoy it too. It's something that I really love. And I just know people are not born copywriters. You obviously can, I think you have to have the ability. There has to be something where you have this ability to connect with people and then your writing gets better and better as I think you do it. But I just don't think everyone, I think you're sort of born with that connection ability, especially in the written word. in a way that then you obviously perfect your craft.
Yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of training and people to learn from. And as I started to feel kind of the ease of that, I thought, wow, maybe this is actually the path that I'm supposed to take. And then I had an injury to my hand, which meant that I could not make jewelry until I had surgery. And so further, then I'm like, okay, is this like yet another sign that I'm just ignoring? And so during that time, while I was not able to make jewelry, I really just kind of had sort of kind of went inward and just thought, like, why shouldn't I do this? And I can remember so clearly, my husband had in March of 2020, right before the pandemic, right before the entire world shut down, he had a stem cell transplant, which is essentially
you guys and your timing, the way things are.
I know.
That's amazing.
But we look back on it now and we think actually maybe that helped us like survive the pandemic, because we were already planning to not go anywhere during that time, because you have no immune system. They basically wipe out all your white blood cells. So we already were planning on staying home during that time. But I can remember being in the hospital while he was having a procedure, and I found a copywriting course, and I had never taken any official training. And it was like a $200 copywriting course. And we were like, shouldn't I? Like $200, right? Like now I would not even think twice about it. But it was like a big deal, because I remember thinking, like, if I do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be serious about this. And that was kind of the turning point. That was when I said, okay, I'm really going to give this a shot and go all in.
I love that. What was the course you took? Do you remember?
There's American. It was called like The Secrets of Six-Figure Copywriters or something like that. Yeah. I think that's what it was.
That sounds sufficiently entrepreneurial.
Yeah, exactly. It hooked me. So I thought, okay, I want to be that.
That's awesome. But you're also a caregiver. So you're also very much in this role where you and your husband, it sounds like you guys have a great partnership through this, where you're really here for him too. And so you're also doing this while you're building and running a business. So how do you navigate like just the emotional and like logistics? Like he has treatment, he has to be, I don't know, but I would imagine cancer is pretty intense, and there's like a lot of resting that's needed, a lot of, sort of stillness, so how do you manage through that?
Yeah. I mean, he's very active. And I think he does that because I think it helps, because one of the things about the myeloma is that it can cause bone pain, but he finds that if he moves around and keeps moving, that he has less of it as opposed to sitting still. So he tries not to just sit for long periods of time. But in the beginning, it was more difficult. He was more sick in the beginning before he went through treatment.
Right.
But I block off his treatment days on my calendar, and I try really hard not to have anything else that needs to happen during that time, so I can go. And even if it's just like we hang out and we like goof around and we talk while he's having the treatment, and then we go, if he feels okay, we go out to breakfast afterwards. So it's like Friday date day.
Oh my God, I love that. Do you, now that you have your routine, it is amazing. Like, how has this been? So this is 6 years later too. So we were just talking, and before we chatted, is when you have a big thing like this happen, you want to make meaning out of it. Like because it is such a life altering thing, and your husband is still obviously in treatment. Mm-hmm. So how has it changed your relationship just with your own health, your own body? Because the one thing I know is like your body gives clues like way in advance before we start to see a doctor. You know, like your husband had the back pain. You're like, I hurt my hand. Mm-hmm. It's just so interesting. So what is your relation? How do you feel about mind and body? Because I think you've embodied a lot of just, I don't think massive is a big enough word for the kind of change. Because building a business and doing that on your own is a big deal. Then on top of it, you have another big deal. And then on top of it, you're a big deal. You got to take care of yourself too. So how do you tend to all those things?
Yeah. I am pretty vigilant about my own health, and I have been for years, many years. I'm a lifelong fitness buff. I was a personal trainer for a long time. So I have a good I have for many years had a good solid base of.
I can tell your arms are in shape. You have really nice arms. Yeah.
I have a temporary tattoo from my grandson's birthday party on Saturday.
Oh, you have a grandson? Oh my gosh, this is a grandma. This is a granny. How old is he?
He just turned 4.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That sounds like, yes.
To answer your question, that's like, that kind of keeps me sane. I feel like I know that whatever else happens throughout the day, okay, good. I got my workout in. I had my smoothie. I took my vitamins.
Yes.
Like, at least if the day just goes all to hell, like I did the basics. And then I'm just like kind of a big believer of not obsessing over the things I have no control over. And that doesn't work all the time. It's not all the time that I don't let like the worst, darkest things creep into my brain. Like, obviously I'm human. Those things happen.
Yes.
But I try really hard to just say, okay, like it's a new day. This is what I get to focus on today. These are the good things I get to focus on, and just try to stay in a positive place. And like I told you, he is amazing. Like he is so positive. Like he doesn't, if he's, oh, poor me, he does not let it show. Right. And anytime we get some weird things with his lab work and I start to get kind of like, oh, what does that mean? He takes a very scientific, oh, it's this and this. And he's very like calming and very practical with it all. So
yeah, it's because the medical industry speaks like a completely different language. But like one of the things that I found was really helpful is when because, you know, it's actually, I don't know if you felt this way, but I sort of felt like the societal narrative was that like I had to be heroic and do something like climb a mountain or something like before my brain surgery, and also that if I had a negative thought, to turn it around as quickly as possible into a positive thought. And then I just realized like, no, it's so much better when you allow yourself to, because you're going to have thoughts about mortality. You're going to reflect, like it's only natural, and you're going to feel a lot of different things and feel like sadness or fear or whatever. And just by naming it. But the one thing that would always back me off the ledge is when I would just ask myself, oh, but do we have any facts to support this? And 100% of the time, I didn't with my health until I did. So you obviously have lots of facts to support, but like different things, like you just don't know. And that was like, just because then I knew that was just a story, and story is speculation. And I don't know, that always helped me. So did you develop a practice or anything like that? Because it sounds so lovely, like to be able to say, what's the serenity prayer? Like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the things like, I mean, that's just, how did you do that? Or were you that way?
No, I mean, I think it's still like a daily thing. I have good days and bad days. You know, if he seems like he's struggling, he had pneumonia a month ago, and I thought, oh my gosh, like he looked so sick, right? But then he was fine. He, you know, got the antibiotics and he was fine with that. And, you know, I do kind of go to those dark places for a moment. And then I'm like, okay, you know, and I try to focus on what is really happening. And if he does relapse, like we're not out of options, right? And so there's always that, okay, there's still more things that we can do. And this is going to sound like super woo, and I'm not necessarily that person, but like the gift of all of this is that we do not, I don't like this saying because it's so cliche, but like sweating the small stuff. Like we rarely ever fight. We are like totally fine chilling on the couch, you know, binge watching something. And, you know, we get excited about, you know, getting pizza for dinner and like all these little things. Like we cherish all those moments, you know, those are like the sweetest moments.
I love that you said that. When my mother-in-law was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease or ALS, it's like complete. And one of the things is she was like a mom of a big family. But she was like very like orderly and very regal. And when she was diagnosed, oh my God, she just really hung out with us. And it was really amazing to learn. And I know she had her moments, like, but those she had privately, but it was really quite amazing because she knew her time was like for sure limited.
Yeah.
And I'm literally going to make the most of everything. And she did. And it was really inspiring to see. It was also like heartbreaking, but I
Yeah.
totally get that. It's like, how has this experience, how has it changed how you show up in your business?
You know, I want to do the things I want to do, right? I don't want to do the things I don't want to do. And that's pretty much
Right.
what it comes down to. I shared with you before I started a podcast because it was something I've been thinking about for 3 years and talking myself out of for 3 years. And finally I was like, no, I want to do this. I don't care what happens with it. I don't care if I'm on any list or how many 5-star reviews. I want to do
Right.
this because this feels like something I want to do, which is shine a spotlight on my sister female founders who have amazing stories, right? And
Yes.
it was something that I just felt like really passionate about, still feel really passionate about. So things like that, I'm still a copywriter, but I have moved into a space much more of storytelling and working with other women to kind of build their story hub
Oh, I
so
love
that they
that.
can use stories in their own businesses and show up confidently. I mean, that's
Right.
something that I have wanted to do for a long time. Finally, I just decided, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And that is how it's changed me in my business. I don't feel like time is running out, but I do feel like now I've paid my dues. I can do what I want from this point forward. Right. And
Yes.
we'll see where it goes.
Okay. So you were saying you do whatever you want. And what I love about that is, and I also want to talk about storytelling, but I really want to, because one of the things, like I used to, work for a company. I had a long corporate career. And so I'm very much like I was in a service position, right? Running branding or marketing or communications. And so I'm always like, oh, yes, sir. Right away, sir. Like always tried to figure things out. And I just think having those boundaries with your clients, though, it feels weird switching from that service mentality and I don't know if that's just corporate, but just really on your own terms. And I remember the first time I ever gave my creative director and I gave ourselves like an extra week for like logo development. And I'm like, I'm giving us like 3 weeks. And she's like, why? And I'm like, I just want to like slow everything down and I don't want to go as fast. And so it was like a very bold move. And then my client's like, why is it taking so long? And I just said, this is our timing. And I was like, obviously if we move faster, but I want to give us plenty of time. So it was like, I thought, oh, here's the first time I'm doing my like first boundary. And then my client was like, what's up with the timing? I'm like, no. So how do you have those boundaries, or how do you do that in a way that you're still serving your clients, but you're not like giving too much of yourself to your clients, where you're able to have that balance?
Yeah, I wish I could say that I got that right from the start. I did not when I started out. And I don't think it's unusual when you're starting a business to just say yes to everything and say yes to any time constraint and yes to any budget. And I could have easily burnt myself out.
Right.
Until I, started to sort of see that I'm struggling more than I need to be, right? I shouldn't be working, 40 plus hours and just barely making ends meet and trading,
Right.
time for money. That's
Right.
not the best way to do it. And so I really had to learn. I mean, I learned from other people. I learned from coaches, business programs, things like that
Right.
to really out of the gate set expectations is really what it comes down to is this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I charge. I would love to work with you, but I understand if it doesn't fit right now.
Right.
Here's something you could do instead, get on my email list, read my blogs. These are things I can still help you with. And it was just a process. Like I did not get that right out of the gate. I had to, like most of us do, we learn the hard way.
Oh, I know. And I do think that I love that you focus on storytelling for women, because I also work exclusively with female founders as well. And there is and I see the friction, like I see the real friction in women like talking positively about themselves, because there's like a societal narrative from the time we're little kids that says women don't really ask. If you show off, if you talk positively, you're bragging. You certainly shouldn't ask for anything more than you possibly deserve. And you're like, and who decides that? Because I see women just discounting all the time. So how can having control of your story help you step more confidently into your business, so you don't find yourself like feeling the need to discount you, where you feel really, because you said something really powerful. This is how I'm going to work. This is what I'm going to charge. I would love to work with you, but if it's not a fit, I think you have to be willing to walk away from that. which is, I know, scary, but then you just make room from someone who will have no problem paying you. That's what I've learned.
Yep.
So how do you manage that?
Yeah. The story piece of it is that I didn't invent this. A lot of people talk about storytelling, but the real kind of juicy piece of it is that the stories are yours. They are yours and yours alone. And even if you do something similar, you're, a coach or a consultant and it's similar to what someone else does, no one has your exact story. No one came to where they are today with the exact same story. And sharing those things are the things that build trust and draw the right people to you, people that are going to connect with you over your story. Either they experience something similar or there's something about your story that they just feel like connected to you. And so when you stay grounded and rooted in your own stories, you can show up with clarity and confidence because no one else has your story and you're not borrowing somebody else's language and someone else's words. It's your own.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Because I do see a lot of new entrepreneurs and they wear someone else's marketing as a mask. Like they'll start to emulate somebody or they'll pop into ChatGPT, write this for me. Like I'm Amy Porterfield or something like that. And it's no, don't do that. Like you have your own thing. But the whole thing about it is you have no idea how well something is working for someone, And so when you copy or when you emulate or you really copy something else that someone else is doing, even when you put your own spin on it, you have no idea why they're doing it or whether it's even working or advancing their goals. And then you forfeit your own ability. But I know a lot of people feel like storytelling is where I remember I met this woman. She was a teacher and she was so good at investing. She taught for 9 years. Now she has so much money. She just travels around the world to see Tony Robbins, literally. And she lives off her investments and she wants to teach people, other teachers, how to invest so they could do that same thing too if they wanted to. But she feels, and I'm like, oh my God, why are you not doing that? You're absolutely the most incredible person. It was such an interesting story. And she's like, well, because I grew up in a pretty affluent household. I love my parents. My siblings and I all get along. We're all pretty successful. She grew up in the neighborhood where Ferris Bueller's Day Off was filmed, which is a really nice neighborhood. Yeah. And so she was like, I just don't have a rags to riches story. And I know that's what people feel they need to have. And I'm like, no, it's not like that. So what might be some things that people misunderstand when you say the word story? That it's not necessarily reading your diary.
No,
either.
Not at
it's
all.
like walking that fine line.
And it's not once upon a time. You don't go all the way back to childhood and tell the story from there. It can be an everyday story. It can be everyday moments, lessons that you learn in everyday moments, Oh, this happened to me. This was like the challenge. This is what I realized. And this is the lesson that I learned. It's, the typical story arc. But I think your friend that you were just talking about, it does not need to be rags to riches for it to resonate because a lot of people don't have rags to riches stories, right? But that doesn't mean that her authentic story, her origin story, so to speak, is not going to resonate with people, not going to connect with people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's one way if someone wanted to dig more into their story? What's a good starting place for that? Because you said don't go back to the beginning. So where is it? I have a whole file. If I get an idea, I have a little Google spreadsheet and I literally pop it in. Mm-hmm. And on my street, down the street, I have full sun, but down the street, there's a curve. And so in the winter when it snows, the people at the very end of the street have the absolute worst issue with snow and ice into the street. It would completely, I was the only way they bought those houses is in the summer because it's so awful. And I feel so bad for them because their whole relationship with winter changes. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but that has been on my list. That's the oldest one on my list because I know there's going to be some sort of analogy to something.
Yes.
With that, one of my most popular emails is just about my dog Herschel, who throws up all the time. And I have a terrible gag reflex. So I don't like to, I will also throw up if Herschel's throwing up. And so anyways, he threw up and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pretend I didn't see it. I'll make my husband clean it up. And I'm like, you cannot do that. You can do this. And I'm like, oh, gagging. But then I'm like, I think about like, where do people avoid things in their business? Pretend like it doesn't exist. So I'm like, where are you Hersheling in your business?
Yeah.
But that would be an example of part of my story. I'm letting people into my life, but I know that's not like my origin story. That I know is like my TED Talk story. So where do you start with people when where's the starting point for that?
Yeah. When you think about how you want to show up and let people know who you are, about your business, who you help, those things, it is really good to start with a really solid origin story, right? And for everybody, that's different. For some people, there are ties that go back to childhood. I just had somebody on my podcast who had a very traumatic childhood, and then she became a therapist, and now she's a coach. So she has a very clear through line to something that happened to her. And so she views those early beginnings as a teenager as part of her origin story. But for other people, I mean, for you, it might have been last year, when you were going through your health issues, it really shaped what you're doing right now and how you're helping people in your podcast.
Yes.
And so I think it's very individual for each person. But what I like to ask people is, take me back to that moment that you feel like sparked the journey that you are on right now.
Oh, that is such a good question. I know exactly, I just know exactly that point. Like, I know exactly where I was, because you were talking about like, you wanted to have this jewelry business and or the podcast, and you were like, yes, no. And you kept on talking yourself out of there. But I think you can relate to this analogy that there's this nudge, like that podcast would not let go of you. It's like, you have to do it.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful question.
Yes. Yes. So don't answer me yet, because you're going to come on my podcast and I'm going to ask you that question.
Yes.
But the whole thing with my podcast, I told you, I was thinking about it for 3 years, and it didn't always take the shape in my mind of how it ended up. But the one consistent thing is, I love talking to other women and I love asking questions. I always joke that I'm like just super nosy.
Yeah, same.
or curious, right? You can call it whatever you want to call it. But I was working with a coach earlier this year, and I was like struggling a little bit with this new direction, becoming like a storytelling coach, and really kept talking about this podcast. And she's like, what do you really love to do? And I said, I love to ask questions. I love to just hop on a call and just find out, like, how did you get here? Like, how did you get here to today? And she said, just do that. And that was it.
Amazing.
And next thing I know, I'm like naming it and designing graphics and interviewing people and hiring a podcast editor and all the things.
Yes. Like, I love that. Like, I had a friend who told me last year, we were in Costa Rica at a mastermind retreat. We were on a bus for like 3 hours and we had the best like jam session. And she's like, you have got to have a podcast. You ask all the questions. She's like an addict, and so I don't think, she was an addict. Like, she's had this amazing story, but I was like, oh my God, what kind of drugs did you take? And I'm like, and then what did you do? And then what would you take? Like, you just asked me everything. And I'm like, I'm so curious. I used to be a business traveler, and I was always like, I'm going to write a blog called Middle Seat, whoever was sitting next to me in the middle seat, because I met so many people. So I sat on this idea of a podcast because I also thought, wow, this could be really good. And then I was just like, oh, I should call it like Radical Branding, because that's the name of my course, blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't inspiring me to motion. Like, it wasn't like, I know what it feels like when you have the idea, and I didn't have the stroke of insight yet for it. But then I kept on calling like my brain issue last year, like my curveball, because I've had a pretty amazing recovery. And I'm like, there has to be like, and then you meet other people who've had like even crazier curveballs, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And, and then they do things with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it changes things. It changes, like, they start businesses, they get clarity. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to call this like, so then you go, are there any podcasts called Curveball?
Yeah.
No. How is that? Like, divine. Right? Yes. I was just like, amazing. So, and that was the spark. There was no question. Like, that was it. So I think too is sort of waiting until, not forcing it. Because you could have done your podcast like in the second year and been like, you know what? I don't have this is it. So I'm going to make it happen. And that's something that I think is a really interesting place to be, because you have to be patient sometimes for that. Like I've really had, and there's some discomfort in that, but
I
it
think
is the right move.
Yeah.
Because then when you're ready, you're like, I have it named. I have this. It literally is like, "Bah," and that's the reward for your patience.
Yeah,
the
for sure. But you don't know that back in the beginning, right? Because I was going to do the year that I turned 60, which was three years ago, I turned 60. It was going to be 60 over 60. I was going to interview 60 women over 60. And I don't know, for some reason, I lost interest in that. And then when I really got on my storytelling journey, it was going to be a daily story prompt, where I tell a story and prompt somebody, which, I still do via email. But again, it wasn't like that exciting. And plus, I didn't want to be the one talking the whole time like that.
Yeah.
Like me talking, that just bored me. I just didn't want to be that person. I'm more interested in other people. Like I'm the one when I go places, social situations, like I don't want to talk about me. I want to ask somebody else,
Yes, same.
Like you live here in this little town. Like, how'd you get here? Or you lived in LA. What are you doing here? Like all those things. So it's just like you said, finally it was like, yes, this is it.
I love that. So if people are like, oh my God, Toby Myles, how do you launch your podcast? So tell us, where can we find your podcast? Number one, what is it called and where can we find it?
My podcast is called Her Origin Story, and I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music.
Nice.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And then if people are interested in working with you, where do they go? What can they do?
Yeah, the best thing is I'm on LinkedIn, all over the place on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I have a free storytelling course that's inspired by country music called the Nashville Method. You can grab that. And once you grab that, you'll be on my email list, and then you'll get to hear about anything else I have coming up. I give storytelling tips. Awesome. I have a weekly blog. I've got all kinds of resources you don't have to pay a dime for. But if you want to pay me, I'm happy for that too.
Yeah. And just know, save up your babysitting money because she knows her value. Yes.
Yes.
Toby Myles, thank you so much for sharing your story on Curveball. I wish I could have this call like this every Friday afternoon at noon.
Yes, it's super fun. Thank you,
Thank
Heather.
you so much.